Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you try, you feel drained, restless, or constantly under attack? Sometimes the most dangerous traps don't come from what you see outside, but from what you willingly let inside. And here's the truth most people don't want to face, which is don't always cast spells with fire, candles, or chants. They do it through something far more subtle, something that looks harmless, even comforting. They do it through the food you eat. That's right, what you put on your plate can become the very weapon used against you. And if you don't know how to recognize it, you could be feeding yourself spiritual poison every single day. Think about it, food isn't just physical. Food carries energy, intention, and vibration. It can either strengthen you or weaken you. And the wrong food, placed in your life strategically, can open a door, an entry point for darkness to creep in. Witches know this, that's why they use it. They know the fastest way to attack your body, your mind, your spirit, is not through obvious destruction, but through seduction, through things that look delicious, addictive, and irresistible. Now I want you to pause and ask yourself, how many times have you eaten something and immediately felt heavy, tired, or anxious afterward? How many times have you craved something so badly it almost felt like you weren't in control? That's not just appetite. That's manipulation. That's energy being hijacked. And today, I'm going to tell you about 7 foods witches use to attack you, so you can stop giving them that access and reclaim your power. The first weapon is sugar. It looks innocent. It looks fun. It's in everything: cakes, sodas, candy. But sugar is the master of disguise. Witches know it's addictive. They know once it gets into your system, it spikes your emotions, makes your body weak, and clouds your clarity. You think it's comfort, but it's chaos. Sugar feeds anxiety, depression, and spiritual sluggishness. When you eat too much of it, you can't focus, you can't pray, you can't stand in your power. That's why it's used as bait, to keep you enslaved to craving instead of discipline. The second attack comes through processed foods, bright packages, fast meals, instant satisfaction. But hidden in them are chemicals, toxins, and preservatives designed not to nourish but to numb. Witches thrive on this because it keeps you disconnected from your natural state, your intuition. It makes your body forget what real food feels like, and the weaker your body is, the easier it is to influence your spirit. Remember, the more artificial you consume, the more artificial your life becomes. The third is alcohol. People call it a drink of celebration, but witches know it's a drink of destruction. Why? Because alcohol lowers your guard. It removes your boundaries. It makes you say and do things you regret. It exposes you to energies you'd normally resist. Have you ever noticed how many dark rituals involve alcohol? It's not coincidence. It's a tool. It's a doorway for spiritual attack disguised as a good time. The fourth danger is red meat consumed in excess. I'm not talking about balance. I'm talking about overindulgence. Witches know heavy foods create heavy energy. They weigh down your body, your spirit, your alertness. When you're constantly sluggish, you can't sense when something is wrong around you. You can't detect when negativity is near. You're too drained to fight, and that's exactly where they want you. Have you ever stopped to think about the fact that food is not just food? Most people believe it's just calories, just nutrients, something to satisfy hunger, but that's the surface level. The truth is, everything you put in your body carries energy, intention, vibration. It has the power to either fuel you or drain you. That's why cultures around the world have rituals around meals, why prayers are said before eating, why certain foods are considered sacred and others forbidden. Because deep down, people have always known food doesn't just affect the body, it affects the spirit. When you take a bite, you're not only feeding your stomach, You're feeding your energy, your clarity, your focus. If you eat what is pure, what is natural, what is alive, you feel strong, alert, ready to face anything. But if you eat what is processed, toxic, or manipulated, your body gets heavy, your mind gets clouded, and your spirit becomes dull. And that's exactly what witches count on. They know food is a gateway, and if they can slip poison in through what looks harmless, they don't need to touch you to weaken you. They only need you to put the weapon inside yourself. That's why I say, every bite you take is not neutral. It's either a step toward strength or a step toward vulnerability. You are either building your shield or lowering it. And if you don't understand that, you'll never see the attack coming, because it won't come with fire and smoke. It will come with something that looks delicious. Witches don't always come at you with chants, candles, or strange rituals. That would be too obvious, too easy for you to resist. Instead, they work through what you invite into your own life, and the easiest way to reach you is through food, because everybody eats. Think about it. If they put something on your plate, if they influence what you crave, they don't need to knock on your door or confront you face to face. You willingly consume the very thing that weakens you. That's why food becomes a silent weapon. It looks innocent, it looks normal, but behind it is intention. Witches understand that the quickest way to destroy someone is not to fight them head on, but to erode their strength slowly, meal by meal, bite by bite, until they don't even realize they're under attack. That's why when you eat without awareness, you're vulnerable. You're not just satisfying hunger, you could be satisfying the very trap set against you. Food becomes a spell when it carries the wrong energy, and once it enters you, it changes you from the inside out. That's why I say the real battlefield isn't just out there. It's at your table, and the question is, are you feeding your power, or are you feeding your enemy? Sugar is the easiest trick in the book, and yet it's the most dangerous. It looks harmless, even playful cakes, candies, sodas, little treats you reward yourself with. But here's the reality, sugar is a trap. The moment it enters your system, it spikes your energy, then crashes it. It messes with your emotions, your focus, your self-control, and witches know this. They know sugar is addictive, that once you taste it, you keep coming back, not because you need it, but because your body starts craving it like a drug. That's not comfort, that's slavery. Sugar clouds your clarity, it feeds anxiety and depression, it makes you restless and unfocused. When you're filled with sugar, you can't sit still long enough to think deeply, to pray, to strategize, to be powerful. You're bouncing between highs and lows, stuck in a cycle that keeps you weak. And the worst part is, you think it's your choice. You think you're the one reaching for that chocolate bar, but really it's got its grip on you. That's how witches use it, as bait, as chains disguised as sweetness. Because if they can keep you hooked on sugar, they don't need to fight your willpower. It's already broken from within. Heavy foods create heavy energy, and this is where people get caught without even realizing it. When you overindulge in certain things, especially red meat in excess, you're not just filling your stomach, you're weighing down your spirit. Think about what happens when you've eaten too much of it. Your body feels sluggish, your mind slows down, and suddenly you don't want to move, you don't want to act, you don't even want to think. And that's exactly what witches want. They don't need to stop you from fighting, they just need to make you too tired to start. Because when you're drained, when you're heavy, when your energy is locked down by what you've consumed, you lose the sharpness that protects you. You stop noticing the little warning signs around you. You stop being alert to the shifts in people's energy, to the negativity creeping in, to the subtle ways darkness works its way closer. This isn't about whether meat is bad, it's about excess, about imbalance. which is know that anything that overloads your system leaves you vulnerable. Imagine carrying around a heavy backpack all day. You move slower, you react slower, you don't have the strength to respond quickly when something goes wrong. That's what happens inside your body when you constantly weigh it down with heavy, greasy, dense food. You're not just slowing down your digestion, you're slowing down your ability to defend yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And let's be real, overindulgence is a form of distraction. When you're so focused on satisfying appetite, on chasing that next bite, you're not focused on your mission, your clarity, your higher purpose. You're stuck in the cycle of eating and recovering instead of building and rising. That's why discipline with food isn't just about health, it's about power. When you learn to control your appetite, you learn to control your will. And when your will is strong, witches lose their grip because they can no longer manipulate you with cravings or keep you weak with indulgence. They understand that the body is the gateway. If your body is tired, your mind becomes foggy. If your body is heavy, your spirit becomes distracted. It's a chain reaction, and they exploit it. But when you eat with intention, when you fuel yourself with balance, when you choose strength over indulgence, you break that chain. You stay light enough to move, sharp enough to sense, and strong enough to stand. And that is the one thing which is fear, someone who cannot be slowed down, someone too alert to be deceived, too strong to be sedated. Because the moment you master what you allow into your body, you master what they can and cannot use against you. Dairy is one of those things people grow up thinking is harmless, even necessary, but here's what you don't realize. It doesn't just affect your body, it affects your clarity. When you consume it in excess, it clogs you. It creates heaviness, mucus, blockages, and it slows down your system. And when your body is busy fighting through all that, your energy has less room to flow. You start feeling tired, foggy, stuck. Witches know this. They use dairy as a weapon of stagnation, because the more your body is weighed down, the less alert and responsive you become. It's not just about digestion, it's about distraction. Imagine trying to fight, trying to focus, while carrying a weight you can't see, but you feel every second, your body fighting itself on the inside. That's what happens when you overload on foods that were never meant to be consumed in the way society pushes them on you. And it's not just the physical toll. Spiritually, dairy has been known to block flow, to dull your intuition, to keep you from connecting as sharply to your instincts. Think about how many times you felt sluggish after eating certain foods, how hard it is to concentrate, how quickly your motivation slips. That's not coincidence, that's energy being clogged, and the more blocked you are, the easier it is for negativity to settle in, because you don't even notice it creeping closer. That's the danger. You're not weak because you can't fight. You're weak because you can't even sense when you're under attack. Witches thrive on keeping people trapped in cycles where the body feels heavy and the mind feels dull. Because when you're not moving forward, when you're stuck, they don't even need to push. You've already stopped yourself. And that's exactly why you need to look at food, not as comfort, but as strategy. Every bite is either clearing your path or building a wall. And if you keep choosing what clogs you, you're handing over your energy, your clarity, your fight, one spoonful at a time. Caffeine is one of the cleverest traps because it disguises itself as strength. You're tired, you're drained, and instead of fixing the root of the problem, you reach for that cup of coffee, that energy drink, that quick hit. And for a moment, you feel alive, you feel sharp, you feel like you can take on the world. but it's not real, it's counterfeit. Witches know this. They know if they can keep you dependent on false energy, they don't have to worry about your real power ever showing up. Because the truth is, caffeine doesn't give you strength, it borrows it from tomorrow. It leaves you jittery, anxious, restless, and when the crash comes, it's harder, heavier, and deeper than before. You think you're in control, but the more you use it, the more it uses you. And here's the dangerous part when your body gets used to relying on caffeine. Your natural energy, your true vitality, starts to shut down. You forget what it feels like to wake up strong, to push through challenges on your own strength, to command your body instead of begging a drink to do it for you. That's how witches trap you, not by taking away your power directly, but by making you believe you don't have any without that cup in your hand. It's dependency disguised as motivation. When you drink too much of it, your mind races, your heart pounds, and suddenly you're not focused, you're frantic. You can't hear your intuition clearly because it's drowned out by nervous energy. And when your spirit is restless, you can't stand still long enough to sense what's happening around you. That's when attacks slip in unnoticed. That's when manipulation feels normal. That's when you're too distracted to see the danger that was right in front of you all along. Caffeine, abused, is not fuel, it's a leash. And the more you grip it, the tighter it grips you. That's why discipline matters. Real power is not built on quick fixes. It's built on strength you cultivate daily, on energy that comes from balance, not from desperation. And once you realize that, you'll stop being pulled by what pretends to make you strong and start walking in the power that was always yours. Junk food is the perfect example of how something so small, so casual, can destroy you over time without you ever noticing. Chips, fried snacks, greasy takeout, they taste good, they give you that quick hit of satisfaction, but what they really do is strip you of discipline and keep you addicted. And witches know this. They don't need to confront you head on if they can keep you locked in a cycle of cravings. Because every time you give in to that craving, you're not just feeding your appetite, you're training yourself to lose control. And once you lose control in one area, it starts bleeding into every area. You don't just say yes to food you shouldn't eat, you start saying yes to people you shouldn't trust, to habits that weaken you, to choices that sabotage your future. That's why junk food is so dangerous. It's not only about the chemicals, the oils, the artificial flavors that break down your body from the inside. It's about what it does to your willpower. It weakens your ability to say no. It erodes your discipline bite by bite until you don't even recognize the difference between what you want and what you're programmed to crave. And when your will is broken, witches don't have to do much. They can push you anywhere they want, and you'll follow because you've already trained yourself to obey the impulse instead of command it. Have you ever noticed how after eating certain junk foods, you don't feel satisfied, you feel empty, bloated, restless, craving more? That's not hunger, that's a trap. That's your body signaling that it's not receiving real fuel, but your mind is too hooked on the taste to stop. And when you're stuck in that cycle, you're not just physically weak, you're spiritually distracted. You're too busy chasing flavor to chase purpose, too busy filling your stomach to fill your soul. And that's exactly how the attack works, not with something loud and obvious, but with something quiet and repetitive that steals your strength piece by piece until there's nothing left to fight with. Real power comes from saying no when it's easier to say yes, from choosing discipline over desire. Because once you can break free from the foods that enslave you, you'll find you can break free from anything that tries to control you. And that's when you become untouchable. Every single bite you take is a decision between strength and weakness, and most people don't even realize it. They eat on autopilot, not thinking about what's really happening inside their body, not understanding that every meal is either sharpening them or dulling them. Witches count on that blindness. They know you'll tell yourself, it's just food, it's no big deal. But that's exactly the point. It looks harmless, it feels normal, and because of that you never stop to see the damage. But if you pay attention, you'd notice the truth. The wrong food doesn't just weigh down your body, it disrupts your clarity, it fogs your intuition, it makes you spiritually vulnerable. That's why I say every bite is an act of power. You're either building your shield or lowering it. You're either fueling your fight or feeding your enemy. And the scariest part, the attack never feels like an attack. It feels like comfort. It feels like a treat. It feels like you deserve it. That's how the trap is set. The moment you stop being intentional about what you put in your body, you've already lost half the battle because you've surrendered control. But when you choose with discipline, when you pause before you eat and ask yourself, is this feeding my strength or feeding my weakness? You take back power. You start making food your weapon instead of theirs. You begin to see that nourishment is strategy, that clarity is protection, that energy is armor. And once you master that awareness, once you recognize that nothing you consume is neutral, you become harder to manipulate, harder to control, harder to break. Because you're no longer feeding the attack, you're feeding the warrior within you. Willpower is one of the strongest weapons you have, but it's also the first thing witches try to break. And they don't go after it directly, they chip away at it little by little, and one of the easiest ways they do this is through junk food. It seems small, like it doesn't matter, but every time you give in to that bag of chips, that late-night craving, that fast food fix, you're teaching yourself that impulse is stronger than discipline, and once that pattern takes root, it doesn't stop with food. The same weakness shows up in your decisions, your relationships, your habits. You start letting things slide. You start allowing people into your life that drain you. You start saying yes when you should have said no. That's the real danger. Junk food isn't just attacking your body, it's attacking your ability to control yourself. And when you lose control of yourself, you hand over control to everything and everyone else. You become easier to manipulate, easier to distract, easier to defeat. Because if you can't say no to a snack, how will you say no to temptation, to destructive patterns, to toxic people? Witches understand that once your discipline breaks, the rest of you follows. Have you noticed how addictive junk food is? It doesn't satisfy you, it keeps you coming back. That's not by accident, it's engineered to make you dependent. And dependence is the opposite of power. When you're chasing flavor instead of fueling strength, you're not choosing, you're obeying. And the more you obey those cravings, the weaker your will becomes. But here's the shift. You can take that power back. Every time you resist, every time you choose strength over impulse, you rebuild your will. And the stronger your willpower becomes, the harder it is for anything or anyone to manipulate you. Because if you can conquer yourself, nothing outside of you can conquer you. That's why the battle isn't about the food itself. It's about proving to yourself that you are in command, not your cravings. And once you've mastered that, you stop being controlled and you start being unstoppable. Every single time you sit down to eat, you are making a choice, and that choice is bigger than hunger. It's bigger than taste. It's bigger than comfort. What you put into your body is either sharpening you or dulling you, fueling you or draining you, protecting you or exposing you. Witches understand this far better than most people do. That's why they don't always need to fight you directly. They just need to influence what you allow inside. Because once you eat it, once you swallow it, You've invited it into your system, and now it has permission to work on you from the inside out. That's why food is so dangerous. It doesn't come at you like an enemy. It comes to you like a friend. It looks harmless. It feels satisfying. But if the energy behind it is wrong, you've just ingested a weapon. And here's the reality. There are no neutral choices. You're either making yourself stronger or you're making yourself weaker. Every bite you take is either building your shield or lowering it. Every sip you drink is either empowering your spirit or giving your enemy a foothold. Most people don't think like this. They move through life believing food is just food. But if you've ever felt the heaviness after certain meals, if you've ever noticed how some foods leave you tired, foggy, anxious, or restless, then you know it's more than that. That's not just digestion, that's your energy being hijacked. So the question you have to ask yourself is simple. Am I eating to fight or am I eating to fall? Because the difference between being sharp, alert, powerful, and being dull, distracted, vulnerable, often comes down to what you've been feeding yourself day after day. And if you don't get intentional about that choice, then someone else will use it against you. You want to be unshakable. You want to be untouchable. Then understand this truth: every bite is a battle, and only you decide if you win or lose. So here's what it comes down to. You are either fueling your strength or feeding your weakness. Witches don't always need spells, rituals, or curses to take you down. They use what you willingly put into your own body. Sugar, processed foods, alcohol, heavy meals, dairy, caffeine, junk food. These are not just physical traps, they're spiritual ones. They cloud your mind, weigh down your body, and dull your spirit until you no longer recognize the difference between discipline and destruction. But the power has always been in your hands. Every bite is a decision. Every sip is a choice. You can choose to poison yourself slowly, or you can choose to fuel the warrior inside you. If you want to be untouchable, if you want to walk through this world with clarity, energy, and power, then stop handing your enemies the weapon and start eating like someone who was born to win. Because the moment you take control of what you allow inside, nothing outside will ever have control over you again.